So Tna Impact was a tape show in Louisville, Kentucky. And the show starts with the main event Mafia coming to the ring. Sting gets on the mic and says that the main event Mafia was able to experience one of the best nights ever. That being Chris Sabin beating Bully Ray for the world title. Sting also says that it was the best night for him ever since he got into the wrestling business. Oh, I don't know, Sting. I think that the night of July 7th, 1990, when you beat Ric Flair at the Great American Bash to win your first world championship, may have been a little better. Sting says that the main event Mafia has won the first battle against Aces and Eights. So then Kurt Angle gets on the mic and says that the main event Mafia will dish out more pain to Aces and Eights than they have given out. And Angle says that they are here to celebrate. He says that the main event Mafia was formed for two reasons: to destroy Aces and Eights and to make sure that Bully Ray loses the world title. And he says that they have accomplished the second. Angle introduces the wrestler that made that happen, Chris Sabin. So Sabin comes to the ring and he thanks the main event Mafia for fighting off Aces and Eights, which allowed him to win the title. And Sabin says that he's living a dream, but instead it is reality. He says that every wrestler will be targeting him, including Samoa Joe and Magnus, they being Bound for Glory series participants. Sabin says that because he made history last week by becoming the world champion, he is going to make history next week. He says that he will challenge the new X Division champion to a champion versus champion match. Then Bully Ray comes out, accompanied by a man that he introduces as his attorney. The attorney states that because of the injustice and suffering that Bully Ray is going through, they have filed a lawsuit against TNA. The attorney tells the main event Mafia that they can provide the solution to the situation by taking the world belt from Sabin and giving it to Bully Ray. If not, the attorney says that he will crush TNA. Sabin has until the end of the show to give Bully Ray the belt back. Now, the attorney, by the way, was played by Dean Hill, who is he's an OVW commentator. I thought that the segment was pointless. I mean, Bully Ray is filing this lawsuit because of injustice and suffering, but from what? Sabin using the hammer on him? I mean, why would a lawsuit be filed over the use of a foreign object in a wrestling match when Bully Ray himself used that same foreign object to win the title? So TJ Perkins is backstage. Perkins talks about being homeless in his attempt to get over in the wrestling business, and he also talks about his early struggles while competing in Mexico and Japan. He says that Manic is his alter ego. Okay. TJ Perkins gives a very interesting look into the backstory of his trying to make it in wrestling. But wait a minute. Perkins cuts this promo with his Manic gear on and without his mask. What is the point of selling the concept of a masked wrestler when TNA chooses to reveal who he really is? They have already revealed his identity, so allow TJ Perkins to be himself and sell him as such. What is wrong with that? So we have our first match, the Ultimate X match for the X Division Championship. Sanjay Dutt versus Manic versus Greg Marichulo. This was a solid match. Now, during the match, something very interesting happened. After they showed a series of replays during the match that ended with Sanjay Dutt delivering a variation of a super kick to Marichulo, they showed Manic laid out on the ramp, courtesy of Marichulo's finisher. Jeremy Borash says this, quote, "Suicide has not gotten up from the ramp," unquote. And then you hear Mike Tenay trying to cover Borash by having the first word from his mouth be Manic. So the match ends with Sanjay Dutt and Greg Marichulo battling on top of the structure. Marichulo attempts a suplex on Dutt, but Dutt counters with his own attempt at a suplex. Dutt delivers a headbutt and a couple of right fists, the second one dropping Marichulo through the top of the structure as he lands on one of the cables. Meanwhile, Manic, who had been laid out on the ramp, is back in the ring and making his way across the cable toward the X Division belt. And as Manic tries to pull the belt loose, Marichulo is now hanging from the cable in an attempt to prevent Manic from grabbing the belt. Manic strikes him, and Marichulo falls to the mat. And as Dutt is trying to grab the belt from his position at the top of the structure, Manic finally pulls the belt loose, and he wins the match. Manic is the new X Division champion, and he will face Chris Sabin in a champion versus champion match next week. Now, the traditional way of presenting a champion versus champion match is that each wrestler put his title on the line, and the winner of the match would take both titles. I can't see TNA doing it this way because it presents creative issues. The wrestler who benefits more from this type of match is the one with the quote-unquote lesser belt because of the upgrade. That being Manic. I think that the safest bet that you could make if you put everything you own on the line is that Manic will not win the world title. For this match to be meaningful, Manic would have to win, but he won't. And Sabin would have nothing to gain by winning this match. If he won, he would have both belts, but he would have to vacate the X Division title again because it would make no sense for him to hold both titles. Then, TNA would have to go through the process of naming a new X Division champion again. Now, if only the world title is on the line, which is how this match will likely be presented, the situation is simpler. There is an underlying issue concerning this match. The X Division champion is getting a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. Isn't this what made Option C special? Option C quickly became the one thing that every X Division wrestler wants to have. And by giving the X Division champion this random world title shot, it takes some of that uniqueness away that made Option C what it is. So Bully Ray and Mr. Anderson are backstage. And Bully Ray says that he and Mr. Anderson have Hogan where they want him. And he is proud that Mr. Anderson is the vice president and that if he had voted, he would have voted for him. Bully Ray tells Mr. Anderson that being the vice president is important, but winning the Bound for Glory series is even more important. So we have our next Bound for Glory series match, Mr. Anderson versus Hernandez. Okay match. The match ends with Hernandez heading up the ramp after throwing a shoulder block to Mr. Anderson. Hernandez runs back down the ramp and propels himself over the top rope, but Mr. Anderson ducks. Mr. Anderson delivers the mic check and gets the pin. Mr. Anderson is the winner and picks up 7 points for a total of 14 points. So then we see Dixie Carter backstage with some blonde. and she is asked about Bully Ray's lawsuit. She doesn't know what's going on, and she walks off. Okay. So then we see dumbass Joseph Park and Eric Young backstage. Young shows Park the video of his match against Jeff Hardy, in which he sees the blood and Black Hole slams the referee. Park says that he blacked out and doesn't remember what happened, and Young says that he is going to help Park figure out what's going on with his behavior. When is that television title going to be defended? Maybe the focus should be on that instead of this nonsense. So then Velvet Sky comes to the ring, and she says that she made a mistake, but the mistake was not wrestling with an injury. Her mistake was letting Mickie James know that she was injured. Well, Velvet, everyone saw that you were injured. Velvet says that Mickie took advantage of her trust to get what she wanted, and she won't let anyone do that to her again. She says that she is going to sit at ringside for the match between Mickie James and Gail Kim. So then we have our women's championship match. Mickie James defending against Gail Kim. Decent match. I mean, somewhat disappointing because I was expecting more. Gail Kim and ODB got into each other's faces a few times after ODB jumped all over Gail's shortcuts. The match ends with Gail throwing Mickie James out of the ring. Gail presses up on ODB and ODB shoves her. Gail slaps ODB, and as she is fixed on ODB's reaction to the slap, Mickie sneaks up behind Gail and rolls her up for the 3 count. Mickie James wins the match and retains her title. And then Gail complains to ODB about the pin, but as Gail tries to leave the ring, ODB stops her and pulls her back into the ring. Foreheads touch, and then Hogan's daughter comes out. And this is when my TV goes on mute and I turn the channel, because singular facial expression will never have anything relevant to say. She hasn't said or done anything relevant in this company ever since Hogan Dixie brought her in. The conclusion to all of this, minus Hogan's daughter, is that Velvet is back in title contention for a match no one wants to see, and Gail and ODB are about to go only because ODB has to be forced back into active wrestling mode due to the lack of female wrestlers in the goddamn division. The puppet and the puppeteer are backstage. I mean, Dixie Carter and Hogan are backstage. And Hogan and Dixie are basically arguing about a decision that Dixie supposedly has made in regards to this Bully Ray lawsuit. She says that she doesn't want to do this to Sabin, whatever this is. So then we have our next Bound for Glory series match, Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe. Solid match. The match ends with Joe attempting to execute the Muscle Buster on Daniels. Mr. Anderson comes down to ringside to taunt Joe, and while Joe is distracted, Daniels clips him from behind. Daniels goes to the top rope and delivers a moonsault, but he doesn't land where he wanted. Joe kicks out, and Daniels does a second moonsault. This time he nails it and gets the pin. The winner of the match is Christopher Daniels. He gets 7 points for a total of 21 points. So we see Sting and Kurt Angle backstage, and Sting says that he wants to make sure that everyone in the Main Event Mafia are moving in the same direction. Angle says that he is concerned about the Bully Ray lawsuit, but Sting says Bully Ray has nothing to sue about. And they both agree that when Bully Ray is by himself, he is an easy target. Angle says that they still have their number one goal, yet when they tried to take out Aces and Eights last week, they failed. Sting says that they haven't failed and that the goal is still the same. Destroy Aces and Eights and take out Bully Ray, and Angle agrees. Now, one would think that since the Main Event Mafia is outnumbered 6-5, we would have seen one strategy that they have already mentioned, taking out Aces and Eights one by one. Where was the Main Event Mafia when Mr. Anderson was at ringside distracting Samoa Joe, which caused Joe to lose his match? Now, there was a perfect opportunity for them to take out Mr. Anderson. I mean, any attempt would have been 10 times, maybe 50 times, no, 100 times better than that lame crap we saw last week, where all of you got shuffled into a maintenance closet and got locked in. So then we have the final Bound for Glory series match, AJ Styles versus Jeff Hardy. This was a good match. The match ends with Styles leaping into the corner where Hardy is, but he misses. Hardy delivers a front slam, then comes off the middle rope with a splash and goes for the pin, but Styles kicks out. Hardy tries to whip Styles from the corner, but Styles counters by suplexing Hardy into the corner. Styles attempts a whip from the corner, but reverses the whip and sends Hardy back into the same corner. He charges, but Hardy elbows him in the face. Hardy goes to the top rope and delivers the Whisper in the Wind, then goes for the pin. Styles kicks out. Hardy attempts to twist of fate, but Styles counters with a Pele kick. And then Styles takes Hardy down to the mat and locks in the calf killer. Hardy taps out. Styles wins the match and picks up 10 points for a total of 22 points. And now we're starting to see some of the old AJ Styles come out. So then Bully Ray comes to the ring and he says that he has suffered injustice and that he is offended that everyone is putting over Sabin for beating him. And Bully Ray says that Sabin hit him with the hammer and asks what man would sink so low as to do that. He says that he will sue Sabin and TNA in order to correct the injustice. Bully Ray wants Sabin to come out and give him the world title. So Sabin comes to the ring. And Bully Ray says that Sabin is out here because he said so and that he is going to hand over the title. Sabin says that he is out there to see how much of a crybaby Bully Ray is. Sabin says that he didn't cry when he was out of wrestling with his injuries. And he tells Bully Ray that the only way he will get the belt back is if Bully Ray kills him. And Bully Ray questions Sabin on being a man for hitting him with the hammer. Bully Ray says that since Sabin won't give the belt back, he wants Hogan to come out and give him the belt. So Hogan comes out. Hogan says that he and his lawyers have been looking over Bully Ray's contract. And then Hogan tears up the contract. He says that he is the GM and that Sabin will remain the champion. Hogan says that Bully Ray has a rematch clause and that since he doesn't want interference from the Main Event Mafia, he will get that rematch for the World Heavyweight Championship against Chris Sabin on August 15th in a steel cage at Hardcore Justice, another special themed episode of Impact. Show ends. So let's see. The threat of a lawsuit by Bully Ray against TNA was ended in 2 seconds with Hogan tearing up a contract. And the champion versus champion match between Chris Sabin and Manic just became meaningless. Now, the result of this rematch will determine what we will see at Bound for Glory. So why is Hogan smiling? Why is he really smiling? I'm Tasmark 2002, and that was my TNA Impact Analysis for July 25th, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below, click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I would really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, you can comment below and click the like button if you like what I'm saying. If you have any questions about TNA or wrestling in general that you would like to ask me, get at me on Twitter, Tasmark2002, TAZMARK2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, send me an email, Tasmark2002@gmail.com. A solid show. Good wrestling plus shitty everything else equals solid show. Note to Dixie Carter. It is time for you to start answering the critical questions. The softballing has to end. Otherwise, your credibility, or lack of it, will remain just what it is. You have people in your company that you know don't belong there. Start acting like a president and make the moves that will ensure the future of TNA. Cut those puppet strings. I'm Tasmark 2002. Gone.